Hey, bring some coins. It's Arcade Sunday. Welcome back to Arcade Sunday. Today I thought I'd do a quick overview of how I built this arcade. Many people ask how did I do this, and it's actually quite straightforward. It's just very time consuming, but other than that, anyone can do it. I'm going to give you basically 5 steps on how I built my arcade. If you have any technical questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Step 1. Find yourself an old cabinet, probably on some local classified sites such as OLX, Gumtree, etc. Make sure that all the parts that you need are actually all intact, like the CRT monitor is there, and you can always buy joysticks and buttons from local distributors at relatively cheap prices, so those aren't really a problem. The CRT is the thing that you need, and if you're new to this, if it's not working, it's going to be a bit difficult to repair, although not impossible. I would recommend for your first project getting a working CRT monitor. If your machine is actually running when you get it, I would suggest just playing the game that came with it for a few days or a few hours at least, just to get a feel for it, and also then work out what you need to do to the cabinet and buttons, etc., to do any repairs that you might need to do. At this point, you would then pull out the original game and start cleaning the cabinet up, doing repairs to all the edges of the machines, possibly doing paint work, etc. During the cleanup phase, you can get any artwork you may want, install that, make the cabinet as presentable as possible. But just remember one thing, don't get the game up and running before you've done the cabinetry. I've made that mistake in the past, and for example this machine actually had completely no coin door, whole panel, didn't have a marquee, didn't even have a cover over the monitor for about 5 years while it sat in my parents' garage. And basically we just played the machine as it was, and yeah, it was way too long. So rather do the cabinetry first and then work on the internals and the electronics, so that you don't end up with a half-finished project. Believe me, it's very easy to do. As far as the wiring harnesses is concerned, this is probably the most tedious part of the process of building up a cabinet. Find yourself online a document like this that explains each of the VGA pins and what they actually do. Then you want to take out your trusty soldering iron, and then basically you're going to splice in the chassis plug into these 5 wires effectively. RGB, sync, that's 5, and ground, 6 effectively. Pretty simple to do. You just have to be very careful. You can use your multimeter obviously to test each pin, where each pin lands on the end of the cable here once you cut this up a bit, and then just literally put RGB, sync and ground straight into the chassis plug that came with it. Here's an example of the actual chassis plug that you would wire into. In this case the colors aren't correct, but you put R, G and B, and this will be your dual sync. We usually tie these together, so because most modern chassis support a composite sync signal, so it'll work pretty well for most second-hand junk or slightly newer, if you would, monitor chassis. As far as wiring the controls up into the control panel, where possible just reuse your existing harness you have, and then you can just cut off the connector and then connect these wires up to an Arduino Micro or Arduino dev board. That's the way I do it anyway. There are other ways of doing it. You can also get something called a JPack, which apparently you can plug your controls straight into a Jammer Edge and then straight into one USB port on a PC. I haven't seen one of those, but it does look quite easy to do. You wouldn't have to really do any wiring then. and you wouldn't need an Arduino micro, but my method is what I use because it was what I have available to me and works very well for me. As far as the buttons are concerned, very simple. These are just leaf switch buttons. I do really like these universal leaf switch. There's also controls that have the same, or the joysticks have the same type of leaf switches in them. They work great. They're quite cheap, readily available. This is a brand new one. You basically would just wire on ground onto one side with a common ground strap throughout all the buttons and joysticks, and the other one will be your actual signal pin that tells the machine when you actually pushing the button, makes contact there, and says okay, you've pushed fire 1 or whatever the case is. I've had tried various different types of joysticks. So this is a real Chinese, it's called Zippy joystick. Do not buy this, it's not very good, very clickety, very clunky, not very smooth mechanism. I've also had something like this that came with one of my machines. I actually tried to restore this one, also uses micro switches, but again not very, I don't know, the stick's very long, not very comfortable to play with. I think I'll go back to these universal style joysticks that are just very simple, also just leaf switched. This is an old one in this video here, but I have you can buy these new for pretty cheap, and they work very well, very authentic feel to them, just how I remember it from the back in the day. While you're messing with your wiring harnesses and buttons, think about the layout of your control panel. In 4 out of the 5 cases here, I've custom built the panel to do what I want it to do. For example, this is our Arcanoid cabinet. I've put a spinner into this control panel, a single joystick for some single player games, and then just simply 2 buttons, and then player 1, player 2 start. Try and reduce the amount of buttons you require because it's just less wiring. Also it gives a neater look. No additional buttons that aren't required for each of the cabinets. In this case, this has got a metal control panel which I haven't altered at all. Still got the original Neo Geo stickers on, but this works for me. Still neat layout, not over cluttered. Here 2 player game. Simple buttons. This could actually be reduced to 2 buttons per side, but this was a multiple cabinet before, or it had way more games on it before. It was relied on as a single machine, but now since I've got other machines to do other things, this use case has changed, so that could actually be altered to make it look even neater. In this case here, this is my sort of all-in-one. A lot of the fighting games are on here, a lot of the horizontal scrolling games are on here, obviously, it's horizontal screen. And this gets 6 buttons per player. It was quite neatly fitted in there. This is only a 52 centimeter control panel, short. So this was quite a feat to get fitted in. But again, looks neat. 1 and 2 players on the front. And then I've got a tiny service button on the side there that does alt moves. I can either get into a menu or do various things with that button. This was by far the most customed control panel of all of them, the most difficult build due to the analog input of the steering wheel and its accelerator down there. This was quite a lot of fun, a lot of hair pulling moments, but it's actually working great, and it's been in good service for a good couple of months now, no problems. But yeah, just think about your control panel and what games you want to play on it, and try and lay it out as neatly as possible without over cluttering like some of the projects I've seen out there. If you're going to end up using GroovyArcade, the all-in-one GroovyArcade installer, which I highly recommend, it's a great system, you will need a supported ATI video card. I have picked them up quite cheaply. I think it's an R620, I believe, is a modern card that you can still buy for quite cheap, and it's brand new with a warranty and everything, and those work pretty well, and they are inexpensive. That's basically the start of your project. You have to get an ATI card. Don't even try NVIDIA cards or any onboard nonsense. Just get a supported AMD or ATI, like it used to be called, card, and then you'll be good to go with GroovyArcade. Then okay, I've got a collection of old boards here, which I unfortunately have to pull out occasionally to get my machines up and running again. What's this? Oh yeah, this is a XFX ATI card. This also was working pretty well, either via VGA or HDMI. Obviously, no, sorry, DVI or VGA, not HDMI. This card works great. This is a backup card, so is this. So we'll definitely keep those very carefully aside as not to lose them or break them. But yeah, I've got a collection of motherboards here, which some of them are very old and actually must probably go in the bin, but I haven't tested these yet. But if I need another board, I can just look at this pile here and pull one out and see what I can make work. But that being said, you can pick up pretty cheap motherboards, or even find a second hand. It doesn't really have to be a strong machine. It's really all about the ATI card, but you want to get at least approximately like an R3 type processor, even first generation, second generation R3. That'll probably run all the games that GroovyArcade can run pretty well. So that's a good starting point, and if you do have spares lying around, just use those and see how far you get. Step 4. Install GroovyArcade. GroovyArcade is a Linux based distribution, all in one ISO image that you can basically just install one time and then work with the installed software, or you can run it straight off a memory stick, like a boot once memory resident version of the same. Now people might say Linux is very complicated, but it's not really. They've made it pretty easy to do here. A lot of work's gone into this ISO image, and there's been a lot of development over the years. Very happy with this product. Once installed onto a hard disk, you can drop your ROMs in, do your necessary setup. You can come back later after the install's finished, make changes via File Manager, and you can change things to do with your audio, video, etc. straight from here, although you probably have done that already in the first step. The reason I use GroovyArcade is because, well, firstly it is an all-in-one solution, but mainly because of the support for CRT monitors is just built in and just works flawlessly. There are different options for different types of monitors, but I usually just go with a generic arcade type monitor and let it run like that. Very easy to set up, and has beautiful image quality, no shearing in scrolling games. For the sake of completeness, I've just given 2 installation methods for GroovyArcade. You can either burn the ISO to a standard DVD, or much easier, just flash the image to a memory stick and boot off it. I've used both methods. Both methods work fine. However, the USB method obviously is more reliable. You don't have to have a CD-ROM, DVD-ROM drive in your PC. One less thing to waste power and take up space. So yeah, USB is the way to go, definitely. There are a few resources online on how to actually install GroovyArcade. It's not really that difficult at all. I can go through the installation process if you want to, but again, it's quite an undertaking, so please let me know if you are interested in knowing how to actually install GroovyArcade. It may not be obvious at first, but once you know how to do it, it's very easy. Okay, step 5, final step and the most fun, I guess, is once GroovyMaim is installed, your ROMs are in place, and you have the game actually running. You want to go into the games you're going to be playing and test playing them, and then adjust the controls accordingly. For example, I have a service button on the side that I can pull up a menu, and I can say input for this game, player 1 controls, what is up, down, left, right, etc. Player 1, player 2, 1 player button, button 2, button 3, etc. for all the players, the coin input, etc. Just want to just program those all in. Some games do have different controls. For example, like Double Dragon may use punch kick and jump, but then Double Dragon 2 has back attack, forward attack, and jump. That's the way I set them up. But by default, the buttons are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Obviously, up, down, left, right. So each game has its unique set of controls, and you'll have to just tweak those accordingly. Another good example is pinball action. In fact, I have it running here. I've actually wired in buttons on the sides for the flippers and the bump button, so that is unique to pinball action. Again, another game that's of an interesting note here would be Fire Trap, which uses 2 joysticks and no buttons. So where's Fire Trap? Okay, Fire Trap uses up and down on control 2. In fact, there's the operation there. Use 2 joysticks to control it. So each game's got unique control mechanism which you need to basically tell the machine how to use it, and then it works fine going forward. So I hope you've enjoyed this little intro into how to build up a control and an arcade machine for yourself, and I hope you do actually try yourself. And again, if you've got any questions or comments, or if you want any technical questions answered, please leave them in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer them and assist you in your arcade home experience. Cheers for now. Now play some games. And finally, I put up a new high score on Bomb Jack at last. I think this is most definitely my highest score. Very impressed with that.